Here we go. Coming up on today's show, buckle up folks, we're hitting the road for an hour of one-tank trips. All sorts of ideas to inspire you to hop in the car and explore destinations that are an easy drive from Northeast Ohio. So are you ready to go? New Day Cleveland starts right now. Welcome to New Day Cleveland. It's time to drive. We're racking up the miles today and taking you on one-tank trips all over Northeast Ohio. And thanks to our friends at Northern Ohio Honda Dealers, our first destination takes us below the ground. Check it out, Olentangy Caverns.
Welcome to Olentangy Indian Caverns. We're located just 20 minutes north of Columbus, right off of 71. And we have so many things to share with you. We have a petting zoo, cave, gem mining, and we're gonna take you around to see all of the sites. We focus on family-friendly outdoor adventure, and we want to make sure it's affordable. So you can do all of the activities, you can just do one of the activities. You could actually come down and for free, you could play on our playground and see our new fire truck slide. Here we have our treasure hunt maze. What you do is you get 3 coins and you basically get yourself lost inside the maze because you're trying to find 3 different stations that have treasures. Sometimes we'll have an arrowhead, sometimes we'll have fool's gold. Really fun for the kids because they first have to find the stations and then put in their coin and see what's gonna come out for them to keep. You have to find your way back out. We've never lost anybody in the treasure hunt maze. We have families that come probably a couple times over the season. They love to come and see the petting zoo. This is the newest member of our herd. He doesn't even have a name yet. He is a Flemish giant bunny, and he is so cute. He's only 8 months old.
Come here. Oh, how cute. Oh, you're so gentle. Yes, you are my friend.
So this is Tiny. She is a San Clemente Island goat, which is an endangered species of goats. We have started to breed this species of goats to try to repopulate. Tiny just had 2 babies. She had twins about 2 weeks ago. So Tiny Goat has 2 tiny goats now. A lot of families will come and do the gem mining. That's a huge hit as well. Every time you come, you find something a little bit different. So we have arrowheads, gems, shark teeth, fool's gold. It is super, super fun, and the kids really love to do that as well. We're now standing in the entrance to the cave. So we built the museum right over top of the cave. And we created it as self-guided because we really want to be family friendly. There's tons of history in the area. It's really interesting. The Wyandot Indian tribe actually used the caverns as a place to live. In the 1800s, there was a traveler going west with his ox, and he camped out for the night, and when he woke up in the morning, his ox was gone. The ox had fallen down into the hole that was the cavern, and so the township decided that it was a danger to everyone, so they actually filled the caves in. And then in the early 1900s, a couple of families banded together. They excavated the cave, and then on July 4th, 1935, that was the very first tour that they started giving, and it's been open ever since.
It was really wet, but it was really fun.
If you want more information on Olentangy Caverns, just head to fox8.com and you'll find a list of all the one-tank trips featured on today's show. And we have more than a dozen to go. So coming up next, a tour along the shores of Lake Erie.
The lighthouse was built in the fall of 1821. It's the most photographed building in the state of Ohio.
Lake Erie is home to over 20 lighthouses, some dating back to the early 18th century. They were built long before GPS navigation, and they marked our shorelines and helped maritime captains gain safe entry to our harbors. Well, today many are still operational and are popular tourist attractions, and one of those is the Marblehead Lighthouse located in Port Clinton.
We have about 25,000 people that climb the lighthouse each year. About 30,000 go through the other buildings, 30 to 35,000.
Also on the property, you'll find a museum as well as the original life-saving station, which ultimately became the U.S. Coast Guard. It's really interesting, and inside the museum, you'll find the lighthouse's original lens, which contained 13 lamps. They burned whale oil. Each one had to be fueled, and it took about 80 pounds of whale oil a night. Had to be carried up what we think was a series of wooden ladders to keep the lights burning. As you travel east, another popular destination is the Vermilion Lighthouse. Although you can't go in it, it sure is nice just to sit on the beach and enjoy the incredible view. The city of Lorain is the home of the Jewel of the North, as it's called, and it is also available for a tour during the summer. Oh, and we can't forget our very own right here in Cleveland, located at the mouth of the Cuyahoga River. As you continue your journey, Fairport Harbor features not one, but 2 lighthouses, as well as a museum, and it's really a must-see. The 60-foot tower? Well, it's a long walk up, but boy, it's an incredible view.
This is one of the lighthouses where you can actually go in. You could climb the 69 spiral steps that lead out to an observation tower. And then you could walk around outside and you have a spectacular view of Lake Erie and the Grand River.
In 1968, an actual pilot house from a ship called the Frontenac was disassembled and attached to the museum. That's fun to see too. Every road trip needs a sweet spot, right? And this is ours. Who's in the mood for ice cream?
We actually have real full butterfat ice cream. And if you haven't had it, it's to die for.
90 miles south of Cleveland, in the village of Utica, you'll find Velvet ice cream. And trust me, once you taste it, you'll see why people come from all over for this delicious treat.
We've got people who come from everywhere, not just Ohio. Ohio obviously is our biggest draw because there's this little diamond in the rough in the middle of Utica, Ohio, rolling beautiful hills, and you pull up on this gorgeous building to say what's going on here.
Velvet Ice Cream's home is an old grist mill built way back in 1817. The working water wheel on the side of the mill takes you back in time, making the setting all that more impressive. More than 150,000 people visit each year to enjoy this delicious ice cream. Once you enter, you find yourself in a turn-of-the-century ice cream parlor and museum.
We have a vast selection of ice cream, over 30 flavors. Make your own sundaes, make your own milkshakes, whatever your favorite flavor is, heaping mounds of ice cream in an ice cream cone. So what makes our ice cream so creamy is we use the finest creams, and it makes it very, very rich and creamy.
Feeling hungry? Velvet's Ice Cream Parlor also serves lunch and dinner. And of course, it's good too.
From there, we have an ice cream museum inside the building, which chronologically outlines the history of Velvet, tells the story of our company, manufacturing, and the general ice cream knowledge. We have some artifacts in there as well that are really interesting to look at. When you come to the mill, you can hit the visitor center first and experience Velvet packaging throughout the years.
I couldn't help but notice that back in the 1960s, Jane Fonda actually signed on to promote this delicious ice cream. Velvet Ice Cream is located on 20 acres of beautiful, picturesque property. Many visitors love to just sit around outside on the patio while eating their ice cream. And on the weekends, listen to live music. There's even a playground for the young ones, not to mention a stock pond for free fishing.
We have families that have been coming here for 40 years. We have families that come every evening. So it really is a gathering place of sorts, and I think that's what ice cream does in general. It brings people together, makes people feel happy, and it triggers memories of tradition. And Velvet is all about tradition.
When we return, the journey continues behind bars.
Road trips, recipes, and much more. Go to fox8.com and click on the New Day Cleveland tab.
Here's a good idea. Go to jail. That's right, the big house, the Hoosgow, a prison so famous, Morgan Freeman stayed there. You're gonna like this one. It's in Mansfield, and guess what? It's just a one-tank trip away. We've all seen the movie, and now you can experience it yourself. That's right, we're talking about the film, the multi-award-winning film, The Shawshank Redemption. And it was shot right here, a little over an hour from Cleveland, at the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield.
So we are currently standing on the east cell block. This is the world's tallest freestanding steel cell block ever. It is 6 tiers high with 100 cells on each tier. This would have been made to hold 1,200 inmates, assuming that there were 2 people to 1 cell. Sometimes there were 3 men to a cell, seeing as our population at its peak was about 3,400 inmates.
The prison was completed in 1896, and as you might imagine, conditions were very bad. Not a 4-star hotel indeed. It was not a place you wanted to find out that was where you're going to stay.
It was very bad. We had cockroaches pretty bad, a lot of rats. Smell was terrible. There was no heat, there was no cooling. It was just absolutely terrible.
Seeing and experiencing the prison in Mansfield is not easy to put into words. I mean, you just go into the cells and it puts a chill in your spine, imagining the people actually living in these little spaces. And for those who misbehaved, it was 2 weeks of solitary confinement in the dark, complete darkness.
Lickety split. Want to get home?
Just about finished, sir.
In 1994, The Shawshank Redemption was shot at the prison, and today, thankfully, you can actually visit many of the places used during the filming of the movie.
Upstairs we have a Shawshank Museum where you can sit at Warden Norton's desk. We even have pens that say Warden Norton on it, so if you want to steal a pen off of Warden Norton's desk, you're more than welcome to do so. You can sit at the desk that Andy was at when he played the records. We have the embroidery sampler above the safe as well. We have the tin that housed the money and the note from Andy after he had escaped from prison and left it underneath the rock for Red to find. So we are currently in the Brooks Was Here So Was Red room, also known as the halfway house. So when Brooks was released from prison, the halfway house scenes were filmed here.
And if you haven't seen enough, yes, there's a whole lot more. There's a second museum on the property filled with early corrections memorabilia.
We have a corrections museum downstairs that has memorabilia from our prison, surrounding prisons. It even has the electric chair for the entire state of Ohio.
This is my 5th or 6th time here. This is their first times here, and I know they've loved it. I always love it coming here.
There are all sorts of tour opportunities at the Reformatory, so make sure you check out your options online before you head out the door. From jail to rocks, a unique garden in the middle of a neighborhood.
Ben Hartman started his garden in 1932, and he set about quite innocently just building one object, and then another object, and another object, and another object.
In Springfield, Ohio, just north of Dayton, is a nationally recognized rock garden. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. There are hundreds of individual pieces of art throughout the property. In 1932, due to the Great Depression, Ben was laid off from his job as a molder in a nearby factory. And because he wasn't content with idle time, he started creating works of art with rocks. He collected these from nearby farms.
The old dump was just probably about 3/4 of a mile from here, and it was just open fields between here and there. So Ben would have been able to walk over and just rummage around through various wire and other materials, wire to put back into the concrete to give it some strength, pieces of glass. So when you see those other objects here in the garden, they're almost all salvaged where he's pulling those. So again, things that he's getting for free.
There are 4 major themes in the Hartman Rock Garden. The first is religion. There are numerous pieces that depict biblical stories, everything from Noah's Ark to Daniel in the lion's den. Another theme is patriotism. The third, education. And finally, pop culture. And one piece that represents all of the themes is the Tree of Life.
This is just completely from Ben's imagination. It's a tree. It looks like a saguaro cactus, but it's a tree, and it's the Tree of Life, which is an old image, and it has most of the major themes of the garden in one thing. It has a schoolhouse representing education, has a church for religion, and the middle part is patriotism, love of country. You have a bald eagle on top of a globe with the letters US, and then this American shield on the side. And then Ben was also a pacifist, so it has the doves of peace off to the side.
Everywhere you look, you see something new. It's almost too much to take in. From the massive castle to the miniature soldiers, it really is inspiring. Even the fence that surrounds the property is made of cement. And yes, each slat was hand cast.
And it's impressive. I'm really, really amazed at the intricacy of the work. And my kids, you know, they're gaming and things like that. We're here on spring break, and I want them to see, you know, what you can do with just time and patience, and that it's been around for almost 100 years. Amazing.
We're chugging right along to our next stop, folks. Tucked away in Amish country, you'll find a remarkable piece of railroad history. For nearly 150 years, steam engines ruled the rails. They were the key to the Industrial Revolution, and without them, our world would be nothing like it is today. Thanks to the Age of Steam Roundhouse Museum in Sugar Creek, we can relive and experience firsthand these incredible machines and all they have done to help build our nation.
This is the dream of our founder, Jerry Jacobson, of one man who grew up in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, not too far from us today. And he dreamed as a young boy of one day owning his own steam locomotive.
Ultimately, Jerry did achieve his dream, but he didn't buy just one, he bought several and ended up building a working roundhouse for his collection.
Today we have about 23 steam locomotives in the collection here. There's also a large collection of additional rolling stock, cabooses, passenger cars, other types of freight cars.
When you enter the roundhouse, the first engine you see was once owned by Andrew Carnegie and was used in one of his steel plants.
Number 14 is the oldest piece in the collection, built in 1897. But this is a piece that's pretty important to us here as it's a good teaching tool as we introduce folks to the age of steam and to the way that these machines operated.
The sheer size of these steam engines is overwhelming. We're told that some weighed as much as 600 tons. That's more than 1,000,000 pounds.
One of the most impressive things of a locomotive of this size, a big express locomotive designed to move fast freight or fast passenger trains, is the size of its wheels.
The Age of Steam Roundhouse not only displays these works of art, they restore them as well. And as you can imagine, it's not easy. Each part is fabricated by hand.
These are often custom pieces. We have trained craftsmen in our back shop who work to make these locomotive repairs one by one, very individual. You can't run out to the auto parts store and buy pieces for your locomotives.
Your tour ends at a train station that looks just like it did 100 years ago. It's impressive.
And we are open for tours April through November, for tours on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And they'll step off at 10, noon, and 2.
We're making it easy for you to keep up with all the one-tank trips featured today. Just head to fox8.com for the complete list. Still ahead, enroll in a class with birds of prey.
Have a suggestion for a segment or story? Email us at newday@fox8.com.
It's an hour of travel inspiration, one-tank trips all over Northeast Ohio. And it's time to meet a few feathered friends.
I started the Ohio School of Falconry back in 2014. The Ohio School of Falconry was started to help people that might not necessarily understand about the sport of falconry, what it is. So people can come out, they can experience birds of prey up close, and they learn about the sport, they learn about the history, they learn about training techniques, and while they're doing that, they're learning by putting on a glove and handling raptors and flying raptors and really getting up close and personal in a very unique way. So this is Shelly. Now Shelly is 14 years old. These guys will live up into their early 20s. You get exposed to owls and hawks and falcons and buzzards. We use these different birds to teach you different aspects of the sport. So as you're learning about the equipment, you have a bird on your glove. As you are learning the proper way to fly a bird to the glove, you actually have a bird coming 100 feet out of a tree to shoot down and land on your glove. It's all about understanding the 6,000-year history of this sport and how everything that you do in relationship to the sport and interacting with the birds today actually harkens back to those earliest falconers in the Far East. Stand right here and face me. We're going to put him up in this tree. So stand right here. Perfect. Are you ready? He's going to go up. Put your glove up and out. Nope, towards me, like this. This is the most heavily regulated field sport in the United States. This is a hunting sport. That's very important for people to understand. This is not, I have a really cool bird living in the backyard sport. This is a hunting sport. Savannah is an African auger buzzard. The conservation of the birds of prey that we love in the wild places they live is kind of key. We have 8 different raptor rehab centers that we support. That's very important to us. It's part of kind of the mission, the foundation of what we do. Okay, you ready? Now.
And of course, the best part is, it's a one-tank trip. The Ohio School of Falconry is based in Columbus, but also offers classes in Medina. Next up on the agenda, a small town with the flavor of New England.
We love our history, we love our architecture, we love our schools. I just can't say enough about this community.
An hour and a half south of Cleveland in Licking County is the village of Granville. It was founded way back in 1805, and it really is like stepping back in time. From Main Street to the village's beautifully preserved homes, you can't help but be drawn in by the historic charm.
Granville has a great respect and passion for the history of how we were built, who we are, how we got here. We have great restaurants, shopping, historic inns and hotels.
One of those historic inns is the Buxton, opened in 1812, and it is the oldest continually operating inn in Ohio. And it was the place to stay for many famous people as they traveled through Ohio. One of those, Abraham Lincoln.
He did. We have his autograph. We don't really know which room, of course, but we've had many famous visitors throughout the years. You know, we have Harriet Beecher Stowe, Samuel Clemens, William Henry Harrison, Henry Ford.
Just across the street from Buxton Inn is the famous Granville Inn. Of course, it's also been beautifully restored to its original English Tudor style.
We're currently in the lobby of the Granville Inn here in downtown Granville. The inn itself was built in 1924. Dining is outstanding. It's truly a place you want to visit when you visit our little community.
Something else that you have to see is the clock just off Main Street. It features one very special nearby resident who, in 1872, became the first woman to run for our nation's highest office.
If you're lucky enough to be here at noon, you can see Victoria Woodhull come out the side of the building at the Robbins Hunter Museum. That's an honor to a woman who ran for president.
Also located in Granville is Denison University. The campus is gorgeous, and it really adds a lot of charm to the community.
There's the farmers market. It's a wonderful local source of foods and goods sold that is a Saturday experience that everybody should join. I'd just like to say we hope you visit our community. You'll be glad that you did. You'll have an experience that is today that makes you feel like you're in a different time.
Fox8.com is the place to go for a complete list of one-tank trips featured on today's show. Still to come, we're going round and round in Sandusky.
Do you know someone going above and beyond in your community? We want to share their stories. Email us at newday@fox8.com.
When I say down on the farm, I'm talking about one of my favorites, Louis Brownfields Farm. This is a great place for the entire family. You get to visit the farm, and the place is so cool. This is where Humphrey Bogart got married. It's called Malabar State Park, and it's only a one-tank trip away. Located in the rich and fertile soil of Richland County is the village of Lucas. You'll find what was once America's most famous and maybe romantic farm, Malabar. In 1939, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Louis Brownfield purchased 3 adjoining farms. He combined them and set out to employ new farming methods and teaches new modern farming techniques. Today, the 1,000-acre property is one of Ohio's 75 state parks and is on the National Historic Registry. One of the more popular attractions for visitors is Brownfield's actual home, known as the Big House.
This house here was just a small farmhouse, and with his earnings through movie screenplays and his books, he turned it into a 32-room mansion.
The home and its furnishings are just as he left it. It really is a time capsule of what life was like for him and his family. But Brownfield loved visitors and had many celebrity friends, including Humphrey Bogart.
Brownfield used to have, parties here, and celebrities would come out. One of the most famous celebrity couples, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, were married here.
Louis Brownfield must have been quite the character. If you visited him, you would soon find that it wasn't going to be about all play.
Brownfield put his celebrity friends to work. He did not. They were not immune to coming here and not doing chores or taking care of animals. So he put them to work. Jim Cagney, he would run the vegetable stand up by the Malabar restaurants.
There is so much to do when visiting Malabar Farm State Park. I mean, there's everything from hiking, horseback riding, numerous trails to camping and fishing. They've got 3 stocked ponds. And if you're looking for a unique event venue, the barn next to the big house is even available for weddings. And for those who are wishing to stay in a furnished cabin complete with bathroom and shower, that's available as well.
It's a beautiful maple syrup cabin. It was an old log hunting cabin built in the 40s. It's been renovated in 2018. It sleeps up to 4.
And if you're a fan of the film The Shawshank Redemption, well then the Pew Cabin might be just for you.
Behind me now is Pew Cabin. It was a hunting cabin in the 1940s, but today people can rent it out for weddings or reunions, meetings. The Pew Cabin is also the opening scene of the movie Shawshank Redemption, where Tim Robbins found his wife having an affair, and that set the tone for the entire movie. We are still a working farm. The main draw is the animals in the farm. We've got horses, we've got sheep, we've got goats. People can come and pet some of our animals.
Animals are also front and center at this next stop, and here they're handcrafted and spend hours going round and round. We're off to Sandusky. Today we're heading west on Route 2, just 2 miles past the entrance to Cedar Point, to the MerryGoRound Museum in downtown Sandusky, formerly the old post office building.
The building itself was completed in 1927. The museum moved in 1990.
The centerpiece of the museum is the spectacular merry-go-round, a collage of 21 animals from across the country and around the world. But what makes it really unique is its speed.
Most carousels today go 2 to 3 miles per hour. Ours goes 9, so it's a faster ride than you're used to.
And what would a merry-go-round be without music?
Carousels have the band organ music that plays. It's typically a waltz or a march that is on the roll that plays. We have a variety of rolls that we change out on the band organ, so you never know what you're going to hear.
Currently, there are about 100 animals on the exhibit, in addition to rounding boards, scenic panels, shields, and other pieces that you'd find on a carousel. Many of the pieces on exhibit are on loan from collectors.
Every 2 to 3 years, we'll ship them back to the collectors and borrow new pieces. We figure as long as the collectors are letting us borrow, we'll outfit the museum primarily with their pieces and just sprinkle in the museum-owned pieces. The collectors have some phenomenal pieces that most people would never get to see otherwise.
The MerryGoRound Museum also has a group of about 20 volunteer carvers who work on neglected pieces by removing all of the paint and restoring the animal figures to their original state.
We try and keep it exactly like it is. Like here, this board was coming off here, so we've glued it back on. These things were put together with screws and nails. We pull those out and we fill them, and we've got dowels. I've got dowels in here now just to cover up where they were.
During our trip to Sandusky, we meet the Manasco family, supporters of the museum and big fans of animals.
Well, we definitely like to see the different horses, and as you can see, they have different animals as well, so not always just horses. There's an elephant one that they've had for quite some time that has like a big basket seat kind of thing, and so we like that one. And she likes the giraffes, he loves the giraffes.
The MerryGoRound Museum, a fun ride on a beautifully restored piece of art. You can step back in time, explore, and shop your way through one of Ohio's historic communities. Check it out, Roscoe Village.
They had to use quill pens because they didn't have pens or pencils yet.
Just south of Canton in the city of Coshocton is a beautifully restored Ohio canal town called Roscoe Village.
Definitely, if you haven't seen it before, you've got to come. It's like stepping into another world.
First canal boat arrived in August of 1830. It ignited Roscoe's prosperity and many businesses thrived, including the blacksmith, a general store, a local hotel, as well as many specialty shops.
You know, every town in Ohio had harness shops because it was a horse-drawn world. You know, a friend of mine's great-grandfather had a shoe repair shop right here on the street somewhere.
In the early 1900s, the railroads all but put an end to many canal towns, including Roscoe Village. But in 1960, a local industrialist named Edward Montgomery purchased many of the original buildings and thus began their restoration. Today, Roscoe Village serves as a living history museum of what life used to be like in the early 1800s.
You can't make a broom in a day.
We're dipping candle wick into hot wax and then into water to set it. Each time we do the dip, we dip it into the water again.
So cut the hole with the awl, needle in my left hand to my right, then the needle in my right hand back through the very same hole to the left.
Dennis Knight operates the Village Leather Shop. As was the case nearly 200 years ago, he not only sells leather goods, but does custom work as well.
You know, I do a lot of what I would call historical reproductions. And the lady that was just here brought me an 18th century belt buckle.
You pack them in, like so, then you change your pedals.
Many of the original businesses are open for tours, including the original village doctor's office. There's the town print shop, a general store, as well as the one-room schoolhouse.
One of the most popular books in the early 1800s would have been Noah Webster's spelling book.
There's a lot to see and plenty to do. It really is like stepping back in time. And if you get hungry, hey, there are a lot of choices here. We got a deli, and of course one of the more popular is the Warehouse Steak and Stein. They have everything from incredible sandwiches to dinners you won't forget.
Roscoe Village is a beautiful place to visit. Lots of things to do, shops, restaurants, historic tours. It's a great way to spend a day or two and really relax and enjoy yourself. It is truly worthy of a one-tank trip.
Just let your mind go back and remember how life was in the good old days.
Remember to head to fox8.com for the list of places featured on today's show. Still ahead, Ohio's link to the history of the vacuum cleaner. Okay, it's time to flash back to 1812 and step inside of one of Ohio's historic forts.
A lot of people don't think of Ohio when you think of major battlefields in major U.S. conflicts, but right here it is, secretly in everybody's backyard.
Fort Meigs, located just south of Toledo in the city of Perrysburg, is one of our state's most important historical sites. It was built in 1813. That was over 200 years ago. And why? Well, to defend what was then, believe it or not, the northern border of the United States.
We are right on the Maumee River, and it's an excellent place to build a fort because you can watch all the avenues of invasion into the state.
Bordering the walls of the fort are 7 blockhouses, and they're essentially guard towers where the troops would defend the fort from not only the British and Canada, but Indian raids as well. And the walls are really thick, 2 feet thick, and had to provide protection from musket fire and cannons.
There will be artillery crews on the ground floor firing out of what are called porthole windows, just like on a ship, and then rifle or musket men upstairs on the second story firing out of small loophole windows.
Life was not always easy at Fort Meigs. Troops had to not only endure repeated attacks, there were the elements themselves they had to deal with. It was hot, it was cold, and the men slept in A-frame tents just a few feet wide.
In 1812, 1813, this tent will not be for 2 soldiers, or 3 or 4. 6 grown men will sleep in a tent this size.
The weapon of choice was the flintlock rifle, a weapon that quite often would misfire, and making things even worse, it wasn't accurate either.
It is a smooth bore weapon, which means it's going to be fairly inaccurate. You have to have a target of inside 100 yards to hit it effectively. And they're fairly unreliable, so the misfire rate on a weapon like this is actually quite high.
There's really a lot to see at Fort Meigs, but the one thing for sure you want to make time for is to find the Legacy of Freedom Museum. It's located in the Visitor Center.
Contained inside will be hundreds of artifacts, all recovered right here on our property, from weapons that were recovered from the great battles here to everyday objects from early life in Ohio in the 19th century.
From the battlefield to the bridges, just outside Columbus in Fairfield County, you can spend an afternoon touring the covered bridges.
Ohio is second in the nation, only behind Pennsylvania, for the number of covered bridges that we have.
Fairfield County, just south of Columbus, that's where you'll find more of these historic architectural masterpieces than anywhere in Ohio. Many of the bridges were built on farms so the farmers could access more of their property.
This is the John Bright No. 2 bridge. The bridges were named usually after the farmer on whose land the bridges were built. So John Bright was a very famous farmer in this area, and he had a huge piece of property. As a matter of fact, that's why you know, because he had 2 bridges on his property. This is the No. 2 bridge.
Each bridge is unique in its design. Some have what are called rainbow arches for support, others A-frame supports. And if you're wondering why they were covered,
it was about preservation, conserving the wood that the structure was built out of. It was a science, it was an art, how to build covered bridges. The length could only be about 124 feet before you'd have to have another appear. This bridge was built by Fairfield County's most prolific bridge builder, Jacob Blue Jeans Brandt, and he built more than half of the covered bridges in the county.
One of the more popular is the George S. Hutchins Bridge. It's located in the Charles Alley Memorial Park.
It has a beautiful nature center. It has a disc golf course. It has over 7 miles of walking and hiking trails.
People come from all over the world to see Fairfield County's collection of covered bridges. So maps are provided for those who wish to take the Covered Bridges Trail Tour, but there's another option as well.
I lead a guided bus tour of the covered bridges around the county. We hit probably 7 of those bridges. It takes all afternoon, but it's well worth it.
After all that, if you're hungry, downtown Lancaster has tons of options. Everything from an incredible deli to burgers, as well as Mexican and even vegetarian.
Ale House is casual but polished upscale kind of dining. We have a fabulous Gaelic pub, O'Hood's. I just want to invite everyone from Cleveland because Lancaster is not that far. You'll find tons of things that you can see and do. Beautiful spaces, great shopping, great food, and great fun.
It's a piece of history we don't talk about a whole lot. It's the creation of the vacuum. Get ready to learn about the evolution of floor care and its connection to Ohio. This old White House in North Canton was the childhood home of William Hoover. That's William Boss Hoover. He started the Hoover Company in 1870.
The Hoover Company at that time was making leather items for horses, like horse collars and horse saddles and that sort of thing.
The leather business was going well until cars started replacing horses.
And it just sort of happenstance, luck, that James Murray Spangler, who was a janitor in Canton, had actually invented an electric suction sweeper.
Spangler sold the patent to Boss Hoover, and Hoover quickly became synonymous with clean floors. It's even a verb in parts of Europe.
And I know it's true because I actually studied abroad in London when I was in college, and I lived with a family, and the first day that I arrived, the mom was like, "I'm sorry, I haven't hoovered yet." And I was like, "Why hasn't she done?"
The Hoover Historical Center tells the story of the company, the vacuum cleaners, and the people behind it all.
You can't help but sort of become, passionate about it, which it seems crazy. Why would you be passionate about a vacuum company?
Maybe it's the catchy jingle.
All the dirt, all the grit, Hoover gets it every bit. Yes, it's Hoover, the cleaner for you.
The free guided tours offer a glimpse into a fascinating history. For instance, during World War II, Hoover shut down their vacuum production.
They made parachutes, helmet liners, and millions upon millions of fuses.
Even before the war, Hoover was looking out for their employees' families.
When Germany invaded France, the Hoover Company offered to bring any children of Hoover employees in Great Britain to North Canton. So 84 children came across the Atlantic Ocean in August of 1940, and they did not return until the war ended in 1945.
The Hoover Historical Center is managed by Walsh University's Museum Studies program.
And this museum is truly like a lab for them.
The students work in the museum for college credit and get amazing real-world experience for their future careers. In the process, they learn the story of Hoover and North Canton.
It's an American story, it's a world story. And just the fact that, like I said, you can buy Hoover anywhere in the world. This story has a connection for anyone from anywhere.
The travels continue, folks. When we return, our next destination is out of this world.
Every day is a new day. Follow New Day Cleveland on Facebook and Instagram.
Are you ready for an out-of-this-world experience? Start the countdown, folks. We're headed to Wapakoneta. That's right, we're headed to the Armstrong Air and Space Museum. It's a one-tank trip.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
On July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first human to walk on the moon. While he was still on the moon, Governor Jim Rhodes was in Armstrong's hometown, proposing a Neil Armstrong Air and Space Museum.
And in 3 years to the day, July 20th, 1972, we opened for the first time. And that's a breakneck pace if you think about it.
When the museum opened in 1972, there were literally tens of thousands of people waiting to get into this building. And over the years, I mean, this really has become a symbol, an icon of the town and the area.
It's the pride of Wapakoneta, a town fewer than 10,000 people, about halfway between Dayton and Toledo. Despite its relative isolation, the Armstrong Air and Space Museum boasts a collection of artifacts you'd expect to find in the Smithsonian.
We have the Gemini 8 space capsule, which was Armstrong's first space mission. We have the Aranca Champion that's directly behind us. That's the first airplane that Armstrong learned how to fly in.
I saw Neil Armstrong's suits, his bike, planes that he had.
The museum is celebrating its 50th anniversary this summer. That's 5 decades of inspiring the pioneers and leaders of tomorrow.
You would put Britain on the moon.
It makes you feel like you can do anything you want, even if anybody doubts you.
We all look at the same moon. We all look at that same giant glowing orb in the sky, and you can see what it does for this Earth, how it affects the tides, and it brings us light at night. And I think it's really interesting to actually see what we've done with that over the years.
There's only going to be one first person to do something. The first person to step on the moon is always going to be Neil Armstrong.
Our trip around Ohio is winding down with one final stop in Worcester. It's a place that attracts an estimated 10,000 visitors each year. This is Seacrest Arboretum. A famous man once said, "A garden will add years to your life and life to your years." And located in Wayne County, in the city of Worcester, is perhaps one of the finest gardens and varieties of plants you'll ever see. It's called Seacrest Arboretum, and it's over 100 acres of absolute serenity and beauty.
Seacrest Arboretum is a living museum of plants where we grow thousands of varieties of trees, shrubs, and perennials. And we celebrate horticulture here. And in that, any day of the year, we enjoy the color and texture and variety of plants. And there is absolutely always something to see here any day of the year.
Visiting the Arboretum is free. There are paved walkways throughout, as well as places to sit, even eat lunch if you like, and just take in the incredible beauty that nature has provided. But the Arboretum serves another vital function as well.
Seacrest is part of the Ohio State University, and we're part of the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. And our mission here is threefold. And that is education, research, and outreach to the public and the industry.
Seacrest Arboretum has been in continuous use for over 100 years. The first trees were planted way back in 1905. Today's visitors will find many themed gardens, as well as rare plants from all over.
One of our more popular trees is big leaf magnolia, which has the largest leaves of all North American trees. This is native to the southeast, but it's perfectly cold hardy here in northern Ohio.
And who doesn't like butterflies?
This is the butterfly and hummingbird garden here at Seacrest, recently renovated about a year ago. Butterflies absolutely love this plant. It's called willow leaf sunflower, variety called autumn gold that just started to bloom here a few days ago.
In the early 1950s, a species of dawn redwood trees, thought to be extinct, was found in China. Seeds were imported and have grown into what you see today.
One of the more popular attractions here for families and kids is our children's area that we recently renovated with some tunnels built into the stone. We also have a slide.
In 2019, a new $2 million visitation center was added where Ohio State students, as well as the public, can learn more about the surrounding horticulture.
There's just so many beautiful plants, and it's just really peaceful. It's a lovely place to be.
We're open every day of the year, dawn to dusk, free of charge. And as well as being educational, it's also a beautiful place to visit.
And there you go, that wraps up our show featuring spots that are a short drive from Northeast Ohio. And of course, a special thanks again to our friends at Northern Ohio Honda Dealers. And remember to head to our website for the complete list of places we visited. You could easily map out a plan and visit more than one of these destinations in one single day. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm David Moss, and I'll see you on the next, that's right, New Day Cleveland.